Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a look at the astrological transits for June 5th to June 11th. I'm kind of excited for this week. I've been meditating on the transits for this upcoming week and like the vibe that's coming through whenever I meditate, I tend to hear like songs, and there's just a really good vibe coming with this next week. I can't deny that. But we first need to take a look at some of the things that we're coming away from. We are leaving a full moon weekend. We are leaving a full moon weekend in Sagittarius. And the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, has been making a conjunction to the North Node. And even going into this next week, we are still dealing with Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node. They are separating. Actually, by Monday, they are a full degree apart. However, it's still very much there. The North Node is still trying to take a bite. He's still trying to get a little bit. He's trying to get that jerky. He's trying to get that cake. Hey, I'm not done. Well, you're about to be. Now, if you watch the full moon video, I said, like, for a lot of people, when it comes to the actual full moon energy, that's probably going to be the most mundane thing. Not necessarily like a big event. It's more along the lines of like there was an energetic click. And the other transits around the full moon tend to be what was going to make something occur. The full moon's energy amplifies the need to speak about something, the need to break through something, the need to get a new understanding. However, it wasn't actually the full moon that brought that understanding to the surface for a lot of people. The other two transits that were going on this last weekend that are leading us into Monday, and this is why I'm going over this, we had Venus is trying to Neptune, some area regarding a loved one or an event or a moment in time where we have been very, very foggy. And while Venus was separating from her trine to Neptune, Mercury finally made his conjunction to Uranus, and that was actually exact on Sunday. We're still flowing from the energy of that Uranus-Mercury conjunction. That Uranus-Mercury conjunction was a very surprising bit of information, a very surprising announcement, a very surprising decision. Now, the thing is, not everybody made an announcement or made that decision exactly on Sunday. The human effect, especially whenever we go into the macro real world stuff, most announcements don't come on a Sunday. They're in the Monday news. And we're going into Monday. So there will be some things from the weekend that aren't completely known, and it might take a few days before the full expression of what has been realized can take shape. The week that we're going into, where we've just came out of a full moon, we've just came out of shocking information, shocking revelation, a break in our technology, hopefully not so much, but there's a possibility, where we were once foggy about a situation or about a person, about an event. We didn't have the full picture. We didn't have the full story. We had a diluted, in some fashion, a delulu way of seeing it. Well, I thought they hated me. Did they say that? Were those the words that came out of their mouth? No. Then why think that? That is your own issue that you're projecting onto other people. If you just think everybody hates you, but nobody's actually told you that, you better have some concrete evidence as to why you think that way. If you don't have the concrete evidence, then you need to rethink the situation. Now, not everybody isn't in the hate situation, but hear me out on that. There's been other areas that we just didn't have the full understanding, that we were so close to something, not even realizing sometimes how close we were. But there's still something we have to face now. And that kind of takes us into Monday. The things from the weekend are going to make us face something new this coming week. This is a very transitional week. we're going to transition into a whole different flurry of activity. We are going to get clear on something throughout the first part of the week, and it's going to transition us into some big intentions that will go into this upcoming weekend and into the weeks, not just one, weeks following, because we're going into, shift in the dynamics. Remember, shift in the dynamics. The next 2 months, shift in the dynamics. Anyways, Monday. Hi, Monday. It's June 5th. I'm not going to bump this by hour. Just so you guys know, right after 2 a.m. is when the moon will go from Sagittarius to Capricorn. The moon, in the later parts of the evening on Sunday, it made a square to Neptune. So again, an impression of, hey, you've got something mistaken. You don't understand. There was a push to break through some level of fog over the weekend. By morning, the moon is in Capricorn, and we're much more grounded. As opposed to doing Monday and Tuesday by hour, I'm actually just going to do them by day because there's not like a need to do the hour jump around. However, we will get to that on Wednesday. So I have this currently set roughly at 1 p.m. Central Time. It is in the earlier parts of the day that Venus will go into Leo and make this opposition to Pluto. In that latter bit of Cancer, Venus had a clarity. If it's not her clarity in specific, then it was a clarity around her, and she doesn't even know it yet. But this is going to make us face something because Venus is going to go into this opposition to Pluto immediately. An area where we were foggy, an area where we were unclear, an area where we were unsure, makes us take a different look, and we have to take a look at something that we have been frightened, fearful, dreading looking at. But once we do, something ignites deep inside, a renewal of passion, a renewal of thought, a renewal of an area that had seemed so triggering, that now that we have this clarity, now that we are out of the fog, now that we have broke out of the area we have been for so long, because so much of the last year has had a Neptunian imprint to it, we're getting towards an area where we need to reduce the fog more and more and more. The fog has been reduced. Venus is now in Leo, where she is empowered. She exudes so much energy here. This is not like Cancer, where it was just like, yeah, I feel good. I want to have a brothel. I want to go out in the bath. No, that's not what this is. This is going to be like seeing the shine, seeing the improvement, seeing the wellness, and then also having another side of it going, this isn't what I remember. This has been such a different energy. We're in such a different place. The strength, the empowerment, it is very noticeable from the Pluto standpoint. From Venus's standpoint, she's looking at all of the mental adjustments and the mental transformation and the logic and the awareness, seeing the mental changes of another, experiencing the thought change that another now has. And it takes a moment for everything to truly click. So this is why I'm saying we have the ability to see something, approach something. We get a glimpse of something that has changed and transformed, but it's not just one side that has transformed, it is another. And once parts of these things come together, it's going to ignite passions. We're in a transitional week, and we're taking on new levels of motivation. But with the moon in Capricorn, slow, steady steps. We're not going to be quick to do something. Now, in the early parts of the day, the moon will actually make a trine to Jupiter and the North Node. sextiling the south node, and it will make a sextile to Saturn. There is something about the moon being in Saturn's sign and Saturn being in this very slowed down place of emotions that we realize something needs to be addressed. We're seeing a time. We're thinking if it's time. We're trying to put together the time. And we're not quite there yet. But we get the first glimpse and the first inkling of seeing someone, approaching someone, facing something. There's not a lot of weight to Monday. Honestly, there's not. I actually like it in a lot of different reasons. There's some lessons and true release of fear that's going to come this week, but I don't feel like the release of fear is all on Monday. I think it takes all week. And I have reasons why I say that. So just put a pin in that part. We'll come back to it when we get to the weekend. Okay. Let's go to Tuesday. The moon's still in Capricorn. And the moon is going to make a trine to both Uranus and Mercury. So I learned something over the weekend. Really? Yeah. And it's like the moon is making an expression in this moment of what has been learned, what has been understood, what we have just found. Venus is still in the opposition of Pluto. So there is an analytical depth that is coming from the Plutonian side. We're really locked onto something. In some ways, hopefully not, but in some ways people can become very obsessive in a moment on Monday and Tuesday. But the obsessive is just like going down the rabbit hole and trying to get all the information, trying to get all of the things that we've missed. Catch me up, get me up to date. Let me see everything. Let me take a look at just how far things have come. Again, there's not a lot of weight to Monday or Tuesday. There's not. So what I put in here was a special note of like, when we get to parts of Monday and Tuesday, and there's just kind of a lull in the energy, you need to work on whatever is coming through on Wednesday. We're not quite to Wednesday yet, but we're going to get there, so I will start bumping this by hour. There's so much activity to Wednesday that in a lot of ways, parts of Monday and Tuesday needs to be getting prepared for Wednesday. For some people, you're going to magically have people at your house all of a sudden. And if your house isn't clean, you're going to be mad at yourself. If certain things haven't been put together, you're going to get mad at yourself. So, again, I say, take a real deep look as to the things that are starting to like come through naturally on Monday and Tuesday, where everybody keeps going, Wednesday, can we meet on Wednesday? Can you do this on Wednesday? Can we do it on Wednesday? Whatever you just agreed to for Wednesday, you need to prepare for on Monday and Tuesday. Okay. So, getting into Wednesday, getting into the 7th, in the very, very early hours, the moon is going to, of course, end its trek through Capricorn. It will make a sextile to Neptune. And there's something here that tells me that we need to take the next step in breaking out of the fog. Take the next step in seeing something for yourself. Having an idea of how something's going to go, but not being completely clear about it. And knowing that we just need to just have faith in the next day. So, let's get to the further parts of the next day. The moon is going to make a conjunction to Pluto, and then it's going to make an opposition to Venus. Now, this is all happening in the very early mornings before, like this is 6 a.m. right here on the, so I'm at June 7th, 6:02 a.m. Central Time. Is everything going to come through for us at 4 o'clock in the morning? No. That's the human effect. However, it adds another layer to Venus's opposition with Pluto. And it's like having another person come through and like nudge Pluto. Hey, you got to do something. What? Why do you say that? Because I said you have to make an action. And there is action to Wednesday. There is efforts that are being made on Wednesday. And some efforts are going to be very easy to deal with. Some efforts are going to leave us a little annoyed, rattled, confused. Others, it's going to make us very grateful. Grateful for the moment, grateful for the situation, grateful for where we're going. Now, there's so much activity to Wednesday that I'm just going to kind of like knock it all out at once whenever I'm talking about the transit. So the moon will come and make this conjunction to Pluto. It's going to oppose Venus. It's going to square the nodes right here. Then it's going to square Jupiter. And then later into the evening, like closer to 6 p.m., so I will keep doing this by hour, it'll make an opposition to Mars. Dink, 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 dink. Pinball. We're in the pinball machine on Wednesday. It doesn't have to be horrible. In a lot of ways, it seems kind of fun. The moon going into Aquarius while the sun is in Gemini, there's a lot of social aspect to it. A lot of communication, a lot of busyness, a lot of moving around. So if you're having to move around a lot, if you're like jumping, I gotta go here, I gotta go here, doctor's appointment, I gotta go this and this and this and grab. If you're that kind of busy, it's easier to prep the day before or the days before. So that's why I said again, whatever ends up like organically showing itself going, hey, you want to meet on Wednesday? Can we talk on Wednesday? Can we do this on Wednesday? Prepare the days before. Okay. The moon's conjunction to Pluto, it is the push that Pluto needs to get over something, to go back and rethink something, to go back and relook at something. And that's kind of Pluto's energy all week. He thought he had progressed so far, and then he realized he wasn't quite prepared. Pluto turned retrograde. A lot of people had triggers of fear at the beginning of May from Pluto turning retrograde. The moon's conjunction to Pluto is a push to get over that fear, to get over a certain thing. And it won't be until a little bit later when the moon hits this square to Jupiter that I feel like an actual action takes place. So here's the moon at 4 degrees. Here's Jupiter at 4 degrees. The moon will square the nodes and then it will square Jupiter. I'm going to stick to the Jupiter part. Most of the time, whenever the moon squares the nodes, we don't really necessarily feel anything from it. However, with the moon squaring the nodes with Jupiter there, it feels like we're going to shift towards some gains because the moon is now going towards the north node and the moon is going towards Jupiter. And there is, again, an intention in the energy, an effort, something that we are trying to solidify, something that we are trying to push through, something that we are seeing that needs to occur. A hope that requires communication because the moon is in Aquarius. A social interaction. There is a reconnection building. This reconnection is going to require some level of acceptance and agreement. And a lot of this week is going to be exactly that: acceptance, transition, agreements, problem solving. Yeah. What are we solving? It's different from everybody. That's the truth. It's different for everybody. But I feel like whenever the moon makes this this conjunction to Pluto, it really is a push to make an effort. To make an effort to deal with this Venus situation, to communicate with Venus, to push for something to go forward, to get over the fear, like I said before, and to do something that is meant to help restore hope. Jupiter conjunct the North Node. Restore a desire, restore a hope. There's an ignition. That ignition really started in that full moon. Even though that full moon for a lot of people felt very mundane, there is an ignition. Okay. As the day progresses, all the social activity is still going on. We're still getting things done. And we get to that later part of the evening. And the moon is going to make an opposition to Mars. Not everybody is going to like the things that they hear. Not everybody is going to like whenever their current situation is being put in the front of their face. Not everybody is going to like what decisions you have just made. Not everybody is going to expect to hear just how good certain progress has been. There is a disruption. Mars is paving the way, clearing the way. Mars and his sharp objects and his fire, clearing the path for Venus. Mars is full steam ahead, full trajectory. I'm going to be going direct for the next year. Like, that's how, it's more than that, but still. Mars is moving. Full steam ahead, full charge ahead. There's something here where we talk about wanting to make an action, and not everybody's going to be okay with it. The desire for something, not everybody's going to be okay with it. The leap of faith to shift the energy, that's the big part of this too. Some aspects, it's literally going to be having a harsh conversation and being told exactly what you need to be told, but not everybody is going to like it. The thing is like, if you are in a bad place in life and you haven't fully accepted your responsibility for your part that you played in this, then you're not going to like some of the things that are getting told to you. And just be aware of that. There can be some tensions or frustrations, misunderstandings, some arguments. Is it a big argument? No, not really. Mars is pretty quiet. Mars is slow, steady, clearing space, but really Mars has been pretty quiet. So this tells me, though, that there is going to be something disruptive. Pivotal disruption or chaotic disruption, that it's disruption no matter what. But we feel the need to take an action, to face an action, or this is an interaction and not everybody is going to be okay. Not everybody's going to like the conversation. Not everybody's going to like the recent decisions and the recent announcements. That's okay. We're not trying to make friends with everybody. All right. We're going to go into Thursday. I'm just going to keep bumping this by hour. And Thursday's mainly just moon transits. Like, we don't have anything crazy going on. But we do start to feel an internal shift building more and more and more. I feel like right now, when I'm recording this, the moon has recently been in Sag. So this is the morning of the full moon that I'm recording this. But like, it's not full moon energy that I'm feeling. I'm feeling like the momentum change. I'm feeling how much more and more and more we're seeing progress, momentum, trajectory. We're picking up the pace, we're picking up speed, we're getting something going, which is exactly what we've all needed to be doing for a while. There's a lot of communication to the 8th, but the moon is going to hit a trine to Uranus, and hit a trine to the sun and a square to Uranus. I'm going to get this right here. This is about the closest mark right here. Now, this is going to happen roughly in the early mornings going into like lunchtime area. So here's the moon in Aquarius. The moon has just left its trine to the sun. declaring some type of, information, sharing something that has just occurred, talking about what you just seen, shedding light on a situation, communicating light. And what the moon is doing in this sextile to the sun, and the sun's in Gemini, is this really is communication. There's an area where we have not been clear about a situation, and it's more than one in a lot of people's cases, that whatever event just occurred on Wednesday more than likely is going to lead to some additional clarity that's being offered. So, for example, if on Wednesday you went from doctor's appointment to the grocery store, you come home, you're bringing everything in, you're trying to get, everything ready for dinner that evening, but somebody else shows up. Unexpected or expected, whatever. You get that call, hey, I'm in town, and you're not even expecting it, like, oh, great. Come on over. I guess the house isn't quite ready for anybody. How long are you staying? Do I need to make extra dinner? Like, what are we doing? And that moon opposition to Mars, that could be that extra dinner disruption, by the way. It's just like, oh, that part wasn't planned, but hey, it's happening anyways. That's not necessarily a bad disruption, but still. But it's in that moment the day before that we get enlightenment, we get information, we get something that comes through that again shows us another area where we weren't clear before. And it's coming through between the 8th and the 9th that we need to get clarity. Like, we get some parts of the fog to shed away. The moon in this trine to the sun is giving extra information, extra knowledge, so to speak, fixed knowledge, because the moon is in the fixed air sign, and it is trying to change somebody's opinion with the sun in mutable air. Change the opinion, change the mindset, change the way we've seen something, change that recognition, transition. We will be feeling transitions this week. And whenever the moon hits this square to Uranus, this feels more along the lines of an exchange of progress. Oh yeah, we've done this, I did this, I saw you did this, show me the pictures, how can I do something similar? There's an exchange, but this is not a negative exchange. The moon in Uranus's sign, squaring Uranus and Taurus. This actually kind of feels more like it's going to feed from the exchange between Pluto and Venus. Venus is hosting Uranus, but Uranus is hosting the Pluto and moon. The Pluto. You know where it's going. Pluto and the moon. There is an exchange of information, an exchange of something that has recently come through. Exciting, unexpected in some ways, better than anticipated in some ways. Like, the transition of the energies this week is truly, it is undeniable in so many ways. Now, I'm going to say it again. We are in a transition energy, and we are building towards an intention. Sorry, I didn't say that right. And I'm saying that because as I continue this, Venus is going to square the nodes right around the same time that the moon will hit this square to Mercury. Now, Venus will square the nodes all night from June 8th into June 9th. I do feel like whenever the actual planets, not so much the moon, but when the planets square the nodes or conjunct the nodes, that we get a lot more internal release. And notice I said release. Venus is now squaring the nodes, but she is moving towards the south node. By the time Venus hits the south node will be in Libra. It will be in Venus's sign. Parts of the energy that are starting here that will still feed into everything else I've already talked about, is transition. Now she's going to retrograde in Leo. Even though we are starting an energy of moving towards release or peace or letting go of an old way of doing things, letting go of old things that kept systems imbalanced, even though we're going to move towards those things, we're not quite done with the North Node in Taurus. And I think that speaks volumes to what we're going to be dealing with the Venus retrograde here. We are in a transitional time. We are in a time where not everything is in its new place, but not all the old stuff is complete yet. We're bridging into a new energy. We're bridging into a new development. We're bridging towards something bigger, towards something different, towards change. So many of us are getting out of our ruts. We're not all pigs in slop right now. And Venus's energy here is going to really show where the new areas are going to start to shine. Is that all happening on the 8th? No. But I am letting you know an activation for Venus is happening on the 8th. And this isn't going to be Venus's only activation going throughout the rest of the week. So just remember that part. Okay. On the later parts of the 8th going into the 9th, the moon is also going to square Mercury, while Mercury is entering a sextile from Neptune. Now, we've had some interesting Neptune transits. I cannot let that go. But I also remember where the last time Mercury had a sextile to Neptune in this area of the sky. And that actually was last year during a Mercury retrograde, because there was 3. But a lot of people left that final sextile with Mercury and Neptune. A lot of people left very confused from that. We were in a fog from Mercury's retrograde anyways. We didn't have full clarity and full understanding. And one small statement literally for a lot of people led to confusion. And it was between Mercury's sextile to Neptune and the full moon in Sagittarius. That all occurred literally back in the first few weeks of June. A fog set in, an area where we were just confused. We didn't know how to do something. We didn't know how to progress. We didn't know what we were doing. And as opposed to trying to talk it out, so many people just kind of got stuck in their rut that it led to an entire year of no progress, of nothing being understood, of feeling like you have failed at something, of feeling like nothing was ever going to work and nothing has ever been right. And all the progress that has been made on individual levels has continued, and it has made individual changes for people. But now we're starting to see where that individual work had been necessary in the coming days from the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, and going into the next week. We're going to see how the individual work is going to solidify into another area, how it becomes solid, who it's becoming solid for, where are our intentions in becoming solid. That's a part of the energy. The moon is squaring Mercury. You need to hear me. We need to talk about this. Do you hate me? Was I wrong? Did I misunderstand? Where were we at? There is the push to get out of the fog. There is the push to communicate something. There is the push to work through a fear. And that's not just on the 8th. That's also on the 9th. So I'm going to keep this going. The moon, of course, it'll go void after it's square to Mercury, and then it's going to go into Pisces. We will actually wake up, those of us that, sleep normal nighttime hours. I say that loosely. We'll basically be waking up to the moon in Pisces. So this is June 9th, Friday, June 9th at 6 a.m. The moon is newly in Pisces. It went in between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning Central Time. Now, the moon in Pisces is it's not going to be felt a whole lot in the first part. It's really not going to be felt until we get to the moon's conjunction to Saturn. It will sextile Jupiter right before this. So let me actually back that up. Right here. It's exact right now. So this is 2:02 p.m. Central Time, November the 9th. The moon will sextile Jupiter before it conjoins Saturn. The moon is in Jupiter's sign. There's an effort here, a hopeful effort. Neptune and Mercury's sextile is exact. Emotional effort, emotional clarity. It's time to communicate something. It's time to get through something, to break through something, to break through the fog, to get a different understanding. And it's not the most exciting transit on Friday. It's really not. But internally, the emotional side, this is the last Moon-Saturn conjunction before Saturn turns retrograde. So there is an aspect of a decline in this information. We need to have a hopeful conversation, some serious emotional discussions. They're going to be about an elder. They're going to be about an authority figure. They're going to be about somebody that we have a lot of respect for. Somebody that we see as, knowledgeable in a certain area, some very Saturnian, like their presence. They always have their daddy Saturn energy whenever they're in the room. Like, you just automatically, you see certain people when they walk in the room, and you're like, oh, you're always in charge. And even if they're not in charge, you will still have people come up to you as that Saturnian person going, can you fix this? Can you help me? It's like the little kid that has to find the adult. And to a little kid, all adults are Saturnian. But whenever you're an adult, you start looking for an adultier adult to answer some questions. There's a very serious conversation that's being had. There's something that we need to get clear on this day. The moon, Saturn, and Neptune, they're all in Jupiter's sign, and Jupiter is conjunct the North Node. Where the full moon before, whenever Jupiter was still conjunct the North Node, that full moon that we had in Sagittarius had an action involved to it, something to push through the fog. That was the first inkling of a foggy area. That was the first inkling of getting clarity on something, getting the push to face something, getting the push to see something differently, getting the push to understand something differently. By Friday, there's a different understanding in the air. There's a different understanding in the moment. This is when Neptune and Mercury sextile will be exact. The moon will sextile Jupiter, and then it will conjoin Saturn. We have to get new information. We need to get educated on something. We need to get re-informed. We need to have a serious talk. So for some people, it will be heavy. For others, it will be enlightening, uplifting. It will change Saturn's weight. And again, this is the last Saturn-Moon conjunction before Saturn turns retrograde. That's why I'm saying there will be a weight to it. And when I say weight, I mean like heavy weight. This is the information that I got. This was my diagnosis. This was the verdict. This was the outcome. This was the offer. Are we okay with it? Do we accept it? Will we let this happen now? In some aspect, it's time for this fog to be broken through. It's time for a new understanding, a new emotional understanding, a new literal understanding, a new figurative understanding, new steps. Knowing that we have gone as far as we're going to go in some matter, and there will not be progress from here. And whenever you have stuff in the medical field, like if you're dealing with like taking care of an adult, an adultier adult, an elder, taking care of the future ancestors of this family. And that's everybody in all fairness. But we have to get an understanding. But this understanding is in more than one way. It's got more to it than what we're realizing. Okay. Take small steps, baby steps. Don't expect the world of people, and understand that, again, an intention is very much building. And that intention, I feel like, is going to come through anywhere between Saturday and next week. Because I don't want to just say Saturday or Sunday. Sunday, what I'm talking about will be the exact, but parts of it are in Saturday too. So, the moon, of course, is going to be in Pisces going into Saturday. I'm just bumping this by hour. We're going to get into June, and we're going to get the moon to roughly about 20 degrees-ish. That's close enough for government work. Anyways, the moon is now in Pisces. This is the quarter moon. The moon is squaring the sun and entering a sextile to Uranus. Whatever information, whatever communication, whatever shocking development that has come through, wherever we're having deep, heartfelt conversations this week, there's more to it than meets the eye. There is going to be something that once we start to have the conversations, and once we break down the walls, and once the reconnection is happening, and once certain aspects can play out, once the reality and the human effect sets in, the moon square to the sun is going to now lead to things kind of calming down, winding down, cooling off. That's what a quarter moon is. But there's more to this cool off than what's meeting the eye. And that is, one, Jupiter is now in shadow. Jupiter's in shadow. That happens this weekend. 5 degrees is the point where Jupiter will be returning to come December. December 30th, Christmas, this is where Jupiter is going to be. 6 months from now, this is where Jupiter is going to be. And in this weekend, Jupiter is squaring Venus. Whatever we're saying, whatever we're declaring, wherever we're getting clear, wherever we're having our hope regained, wherever we are feeling empowered in these days, it has a long-term effect. Some of the conversations that you are having this weekend in June 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever conversations we're starting to have this weekend, we will be coming back to them at Christmas. Merry Christmas. Christmas in June. Be aware of that. Be aware that parts of where we are going will be tied to the commitments, the conversation, and the clarity that is coming through this weekend. The moon is going to, of course, sextile Uranus. Emotional, groundbreaking, emotional excitement, spiritual understanding, spiritual excitement. This is a good day. We really are breaking out of a bit of a fog. And not only that, we have Mercury in its last degree of Taurus, leaving this sextile from Neptune. So much of the Neptune energy is just like, we don't even realize so many areas that we're foggy about until they come back up. That's the thing. I know it sounds like I'm always repeating the exact same thing, but really and truly, it's like, oh, I was just unaware of that. I did not know. Parts of this day is also going to be like confirming, oh, hey, we're talking again. Oh, hey, I finally got to see my sisters. Oh, hey, I finally got to see my nephew. Oh, hey, I finally did this. This finally happened. This connection was finally made. This understanding finally occurred. And the moon sextile to Uranus is just kind of like, thank you for the support. Thank you for helping me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, going along, we need to talk about another part of this energy. Now, this other part that we're going to get into, the two planets we're looking at are Mercury and Pluto. And I have to take us into the overnight hours for this to make sense to people. So we're going to keep this going. In the overnight hours, the moon will make a conjunction to Neptune. This will actually perfect going into the early mornings. But what I want to get us into is roughly about, what time was it? 5 a.m.? I thought I wrote it down. We're getting close. Yes. So June 11th, happy Sunday, 5:02 a.m. Here is what I want you to see. In the overnight hours from Saturday into Sunday, Pluto is going to go back into Capricorn. While Pluto is going back into Capricorn, it immediately enters a trine to Mercury, who's about to go into its home sign. This area that has been unclear, diluted, confused, we're getting peace. And in a lot of ways on Sunday morning, we're going to wake up. I don't know why I was wanting to say rake, but wake up. We're going to wake up to a new understanding. When I was meditating on this particular transit, and I've done this particular transit a couple of times now, the shift feels like seeing what we had wrong, seeing where something wasn't correct, where we needed to get new information so that way we can progress. And it is in the information that's being exchanged over the week, going into the weekend, that we feel the shift in the gears. And this shift in gears feels like a commitment to do work. Now, very specific statement here. Pluto just came back into Capricorn. And this is where Pluto is going to be for the rest of the year. In the spring of 2024, that's when Pluto will move forward. But Pluto's retrograde, and we're going to start going back over things from February and January tied to Pluto. Areas that require additional transformation, areas in regards to fear, in regards to dread, areas connected to a moment of trauma or fear. There will be some things that we start to revisit now that are older than March. But the things that we're going to start to revisit after Pluto goes into Capricorn, they're not all going to happen at once. The first little bit that we start to feel right here is Pluto's in Capricorn, the moon is making a conjunction to Neptune, and these two are in a sextile to a now retrograde Pluto. And Mercury is in a sextile with a very retrograde Pluto, but Mercury's about to change signs, so is the moon. Neptune ain't going any further than the 27-degree mark. Neptune is in shadow and is turning retrograde in the next month. So we're getting to the edge of certain confusions, of certain cloudy areas in our life, unclear, misunderstood areas in our life. But this particular day feels like romanticized. It feels hopeful. It feels necessary. And in some way, shape, or form, the clarity, the information, the communication that has come through since Mercury's conjunction to Uranus, which happened 1 week before this date, June 4th, the information, the situation that occurred last weekend during the full moon has carried us into something else. And now we are looking at making an agreement to do something else. And it would really come down to whatever Capricorn and Gemini rule in your chart. I realized where I had something wrong. I realized where I had been making a mistake. I realized where something has not been correct and where I now need to refocus and transform more of this area, where I need to work more in this area so that way someone else can transform. Because it could be like, okay, we need to take a step back and we need to rework on this level of communication so you can do a progression of your own work. Mercury progressing forward. Mercury is going into its home sign after being in Taurus for 2.5 months. We start a new energy June 11th. A transitional energy fully starts to take shape and kicks in on the 11th. Do we get the full aspects of it? No, but we get pretty close. So I'm going to continue this and we'll keep talking about Sunday because there's a lot to Sunday, but it's not necessarily all heavy transits. Okay. I now have it at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is newly in Aries and it's making a sextile to Mercury. These two just made sextiles to Pluto together and then they transitioned into new signs almost simultaneously. There is something new, something exciting, something very, very hopeful that starts to take place on Sunday. The moon making this sextile to Mercury, this is excitable energy. We wake up almost feeling like idealistic and romanticized, breaking out of the fog, feeling a little bit more in peace, feeling like something is going to finally take some steps forward, and feeling like we can make a bit of a leap, that we can take on very hopeful, new communication, new aspirations, new. And where are we expressing our new aspiration and our intention? Where are we expressing our intention? Well, Jupiter is in its square to Venus this day. Not only is Jupiter in its square to Venus, let's talk about Mars for just a second. Is Mars doing anything? No. He's not. However, Venus and Jupiter will have 3 squares through the retrograde. The next 2 won't happen until August, September. This is the first one. Venus is not in shadow yet. However, Mars, the disruptor, the god of war, the armed fucker that is like clearing space for Venus with his machete going through fields. Mars is at Venus's point of shadow. Even though this is not Venus entering shadow for her retrograde, there's still a marker here that tells me this intention, this declaration, this activity that has led us to this moment, the week that has led us to the energy that that is unfolding on Saturday and Sunday and going into Monday. So this does carry into next week. Just a quick reminder for everybody. There is something very, very exciting about it. And it is all very new information because Aries is the first zodiac sign. It's the start. It's the head. Mercury rules communication. And where do we communicate out of? Our head, usually. Hand signals, that goes into that also. But there's something here between the moon's sextile to Mercury, between the 2 signs, that now really speaks to going back to where we need to do old work, where we need to get some old things handled and old things straight. Saturn, I'm not sorry, I'm used to saying, just talking about Daddy Saturn all the time. Pluto going back into Capricorn in Saturn sign. So there we go. There's the Saturn tie-in. The moon is now in Mars' sign, and Mars is chilling all weekend, by the way, at Venus's point of shadow. The idea, the communication, the expression of how we can proceed from here, the new way of doing things from here, how we go from here. More often than not, the person that is doing the expression right now is going to be in a whole different headspace than the person that we left behind or the situation that we left behind. Some of you, you're going to be traveling and you're going somewhere and you're seeing this place again, a place that you've been before, but you have fresh eyes. You've had lessons. They've had an update. There has been something that transitions. There has been the steps of transformation. And now we're seeing where an intention will be set. Jupiter is hope. It is faith. It is prosperity. Jupiter in a lot of women's charts is their husband. Husbands can make some kind of declaration of change in some way. Individuals can make some type of declaration in regards to an idea or work or progress. But everything that we're starting in this progress, has a long-term effect. The moon is in Mars' sign. Mars is in a fixed fire sign. So we're starting fixed. Jupiter is now in a fixed earth sign. It's in Venus' sign. There is a lot of empowerment, impressions. There is a lot of hope that is being expressed. There's a lot of, I want to fix this. I want to do better. I want us to be better. I want this to be different. I want something real. Where we've dealt with so much lies and deception and manipulation, we have dealt with so many things in the last year that very clearly showed us they weren't for me, this wasn't for me, that wasn't for me. We're getting into a whole different type of energy where we're very, very aware of the difference between somebody that is lying to us, somebody that has been manipulating us, and somebody with true intentions. And I actually am going to accredit a lot of that to Pluto in Aquarius, because so much of the awareness of Aquarius that has come through since 2020, Pluto hasn't been there since 2020, but hear me out. There's a huge level of awareness that we haven't had before. Go back before 2020 and ask me, and then think of how many times you ever heard the word narcissist. Think about the awareness of mental health that has come through since 2020. And I'm not talking about the pandemic when I'm saying this. There's a whole different set of transits that I'm referring to. But we are very, very aware of things that we didn't used to be aware of. The awareness that has been brought to the surface is going to impose a new level of declaration, a new level of hope. And there's going to be a lot of men expressing exactly how they feel. There's going to be a lot of people expressing their intent to succeed, their intent to do well, their intent to take action, long-term action, because we're talking about Jupiter and Venus in fixed signs. Our awareness has grown beyond compare, and it's going to continue to do that. But the awareness that we're taking into next weekend, this weekend, June, again, 9th, 10th, 11th, going into the 12th, 13th, the intentions that are coming through, they're not just about that day. They have long-term effects. There will be stuff that we will round back to at the end of the year. In some way, we will take something again to the next level from where we're declaring it right now. But there is desires, hope, long-term plans, and goals that are being impressed upon Venus. And Venus is exuding her power, exuding her beauty. She is shining the light around her. Jupiter is in Venus's sign, so Jupiter is seeing her light and has a whole different understanding of her worth because Jupiter is in Venus's sign. Jupiter is also separating from the North Node. And he's getting more into alignment where he can kind of break away from having parts of the cake and the booty chewed up. Okay. Was there any there? When we get to the later parts, the moon is also going to make a trine to Venus while Venus is in that square to Jupiter. So again, we express a new idea, we express a new commitment, we're expressing a new concept, we're expressing a new intention and an activity of how we want to progress and how we will move forward. And there is excitement. Is there craziness going on in the world? Yeah, I'm sure there is. Is everybody going to be on the same page? Not really. Is there new levels of support that are going to start to come through? Yes. Whenever it comes to Mercury being at the 0-degree mark of Gemini and having had that trine to Pluto and them both going in separate directions, it really tells me that parts of that energy is just like, to progress, we have to go back. We have to do work. We have to overcome. We have to let go of an old way of doing things. For some people, that is going to be about their self-worth. For some people, that is going to be about the method and how they practice and how they perform and how they treat people. And Mercury's first little bit of going into Gemini is going to be adapting certain aspects within our communication, adapting and changing how we've done things in the past. And we're winding towards something very, very specific in regards to our mind. And as we adapt this mental energy, it's going to lead to more long-term solidified growth in the intentions that are being set right now. Okay. I think it's the overnight hours. The moon will hit that sextile to Mars. So that's going to be more about Monday. Yeah. Yeah. Here I'm sitting here thinking that I was like, I'm probably making really good time. Then I just looked at the time. I was like, oh, wait, I've been talking for over an hour. Of course I have. Okay. Going into Monday, Venus and Jupiter, they're still going to be in their square. There's going to be more of like a gas and a push whenever it comes to when we get into next week. But this week that we're rounding out of, this week is about transition. We're starting to see how far we've come. There's getting to be a break in the current levels of progress. I'm not saying progress won't continue. It will. But what I'm saying is we're getting to a point where we've progressed in some area, whether that has been emotional healing, whether that has been intellectual awareness, whether that has been an actual transformation, like physical. So we've been doing, building something or putting efforts into some level of craftsmanship, whatever we've been working through and putting together, that is going to be seen this week. Where before there has been little bits being seen, little bits being understood, little bits coming through. This week, there's more intent on it. There's more activity on it. And the activity really doesn't start until Wednesday. And that activity will then even carry us into the week after. The first few days after the full moon, they're not crazy. It takes a minute. And I feel like the things that we come out of from June 3rd and 4th and all that going into this new week, it takes a minute for whatever news comes in to really sink in. It takes a moment before we can fully understand what we've just been told and how to do anything from it and how to progress from that. And there is going to be a moment where we have to face a fear. We have to see something differently. We have been putting it off. We have been only focused on one area. We have only been doing the work in one area, and we are starting to realize you can only progress for so long, and then you have to start doing the tests. Then you have to apply the work. Think of whenever you were going to school, especially if you did like specialized school training. So, some of us went to like tech centers whenever we were in high school. And at the end of that tech school, we had like certifications. This is like one of those technical level certification weeks. We're trying to get to a certification. We're trying to show real world application in where work has already been done. The real world application, however, will also come with its own set of rules, its own set of adjustments, its own set of newness. The person that we reconnect with, the event that we go through, the family that comes over, the job that we start, whatever we're starting this week, it has the ability to test just how far we've come in our own trauma healing, in our own internal work. And it is also going to allow for somebody else to see exactly that. You don't even look like the same person. I personally have heard this so many times in the last few weeks. Like I've ran into people from my hometown. I've seen people for the first time in like 10 years. It's just like, you don't even look like yourself. Really? Because I'm still a fat kid. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no, but the energy inside, the way that your presence is, just the whole feeling around you, it's different. The thing is, that's not just me. That's a lot of people. People are becoming much more aware of just how damaging things have been. And they're looking for more guidance. They're looking for more help. They're looking for a new way of doing things. We are all very, very aware that trauma has us up. And we're trying to get past that. A lot of the last year and all of those Neptune transits that have been going through has been making us see how, desensitized we have become to lies and manipulation and fraud and seeing abuse. Like we have honestly become desensitized to it. And now there is a true mental awareness that we need to overcome. We've been working on this awareness. We've been working on this lesson. We've been working on our mental thoughts. I said it a minute ago. I'm saying it again now. Think about before 2020 and how often you actually heard the word narcissist. How often people were truly open and willing to talk about their mental health issues. They were not nearly as open as we have become in the last 3 years, and I attest all of that to the Great Conjunction that happened in December of 2020, and that's why I said the 2020 thing earlier. The awareness, our knowledge, seeing where things need to change and adjust, seeing where people have abused power by using manipulative tactics, by serving their own selfish narcissistic behavior. We're much more aware of that. We're much more aware that people have been using us. And we are suddenly much more aware that whenever we connect with somebody that is real and authentic, we crave it. We want it. We want more of that. Somebody that comes through and the wild hair is real. showing their tattoos. They want it. The more our real selves can be shown, the more people appreciate it. And the more people will realize that they can also be free in their skin and they can share their own authentic selves. And the more real we are as individuals, the more we will attract that, the more that will come through. And what's going to start to develop with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction is authenticity shining. Authenticity for a lot of people. We're going to see those areas before that were so questionable and move towards a different kind of shine. Move towards something that is more real and authentic. Move towards something that is more emotionally aware. Some of us are just going to be moving towards our own growth in emotional awareness. We've already been dealing with the emotions. Saturn has been in Pisces since March. We are dealing with the emotions. Not everybody has done well with Saturn in Pisces. A lot of people have suddenly felt every deep, dark wound from their childhood just coming up to the surface. That's on purpose, guys. That was necessary. It's necessary for deep levels of purging. And now that the purging has come through and we've kind of gotten to our limit with the current levels of purging, now we start to apply what we have learned. Apply the adjustment, apply the change, apply a whole new way of doing things, a whole new way of thinking about things, and a whole new effort towards something that will be very long term. For some of us, that long term is relationships. For some of us, that long term is career. For some of us, it's everything. Everything has to be real and everything needs to be from a more authentic state, because who the hell has enough time to keep up with all the lies? I don't. The level of lies and fraud and manipulation that came through on so many levels, like through eclipse season and that Mercury retrograde, I feel like each Mercury retrograde that we've had since September, not the May one, not the April, May one, the September one, I really feel like since that timeline, everything has been about just shedding the mask and like, oh, you fell for this Ponzi scheme? Not no more. Oh, you have been misdiagnosing people? Not no more. Oh, you have been lying in your marketing? Not no more. It's rug pull, rug pull, rug pull, rug pull. There ain't no rugs anymore. At least not at the moment. So we're looking at bare concrete. We're walking on bare concrete. Doesn't feel that terrible. It's kind of cold. Not the warmest thing, but it's real. It's real. We're going towards something that is going to be real and tangible and long term. That's fucking beautiful. We're moving towards something so great and so strong. But it is going to still require the first levels of work and the first levels of adaptation and the first levels of learning. Mercury's trekked into its own home sign. Curious. There's going to be a lot of curiosity. There's going to be a lot of experience, mental experience. There's going to be a lot of communication. There's going to be a lot of learning. And I do feel like whatever Pluto going back into Capricorn is going to represent for some people it's going to be representing going back to something and seeing something, physically seeing something again that you haven't seen for a year or so, that you haven't seen in a long time. If you've dealt with somebody that's all been over the phone and over the internet, then this year might be like physically going and doing face-to-face stuff. We're going into an energy where we have to start dealing with things and facing things and overcoming things that are tied to something older than March. It's tied to stuff that's just going into the previous eclipse seasons and having those things come back around. But those things that are coming back around are because they are part of the necessary work. We are overcoming misunderstandings. We are breaking out of fogs, and we are taking new steps forward all of the rest of this month. Not just this week, all of the rest of this month. New steps forward, new, real, authentic steps forward. It's a good week. It's a transitional week, but it's going to be a damn good week. All right. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hit me up with my DMs. I am starting to take appointments again, but I'm going to be very limited as to like the amount of appointments I take between now and I'm going to say July 10th, because everything that picks up after July 15th is telling me I'm going to be super busy. So I am starting to take appointments again. DM me. I know some people try to use WhatsApp. I always kind of struggle with that. So if there is something that you're wanting, hit me up on the Spiritually Bougie astrology page. If I don't answer immediately, then I probably have my phone on Do Not Disturb like I do right now. And I'm recording and I'm doing something else, or that rare moment that I'm actually making it out in the garden. But hit me up with questions. Hit me up with concerns. I always read the comments. Again, I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.